Howdy, Grant here again, part 3 on the Pacific P16. This time we're looking at the airline system for the brakes and how that all goes together. Now, full disclosure, I'm no truck modeler, I make cars, so I've had to look this stuff up to figure out how it works, and therefore, had to dig into it a little bit more than normally that I would do for this sort of stuff. So, let's get into it and see what we've got. Okay, so messy model bench time. Here's what I did for the airlines for the P16. So I used this 0.71mm solder wire, which is nice and soft. As you can see, you can bend it quite easily, so it's good for moving around that. On the little drill stand, it was a number 69 drill. Sorry, if I hold it like that, you might actually be able to see it. Number 69 drill, which works out on my little chart on the wall to be 0.7417mm, so slightly bigger. Then what I used is this to make the relay valves. I used evergreen styrene 30 by 60, which is 0.75 by 1.5mm, and then I doubled them up. So I took a little strip, 4mm long. So basically I made cut two pieces 4mm long out of this, and then I glued them together to make a little fella like that. And then I started drilling some holes so that lined up with the relay valves in the diagram. You'll see the diagram in the video, or on the link at the bottom. Now, so here's my finished solution. You can see the relay valves attached to the top of the differentials. So there's one at the front, and I've got my camera in the way, one at the back, and then I've got a little valve proportioning block or something, or return valve or something, attached to the side of the frame. And then I've got all of my solder wire working its way around the frame and then tied together with a bit of that wine bottle foil. So that's how I've done my brake lines. Now they all hide up in here into the frame, and they're drilled into a hole on that cross member just to basically tie them in, so I had no loose ends at that point. And what we're working on now is where the air tanks go, which attach under here, and then I've got to try and fit the lines from the air tanks into all of this conundrum. So I'm busy trying to figure out where all this fits. So here's my cab, engine, fuel tank, headache rack, and I'm busy trying to figure out how all this goes together so I can get under here. So you can see under here where to put the air tanks, which attach to those two little holes. Those two little holes, which are, I can't point. Find something to point with. These two little fellas here. And there's two little holes here. That's where the air tanks go. And then somehow you've got to get the air lines to go up under through here. And when Night Shift did his video, he cut this plate off and he removed it completely. And I think that gave him a lot more freedom for where to put those air lines. So we might end up doing that, because this just causes a bit of a bottleneck when you get into this space. If I put the exhaust back straight up, so nothing's attached here, you can see that there is not a lot of room in here for those air lines to go through from the air tanks to go under what is here, to then disappear under here. You'll use the pencil. Right, so they'll come in through, air tanks will be here, air lines come here, and then they disappear under here, and then pop out the other side over here. Now, positioning also, I did a rough mock-up this the last time and figured out where to glue these fellas. So they're pretty much just slightly forward of this gap. So you can see I'm about 1.5 mil forward of this line here. Position those, and I also had to put a little bit of strip on the bottom to get this to be level. So when that fits in there, and you set it nicely, it's all tickety-boo. All right, so let's get my air lines in, my air tanks on, and we'll see how this looks. Okay, so here on the other side, now all of this stuff is just sitting here for the moment. It's actually held together by Blue Tack, but you can see there's my air cleaner assembly from the last time. Now we've got the headache rack in here. We've got our exhaust, a little bit of Blue Tack holding it on this time. We've got a little bit of a gap between the cab to allow for the straps that will hold the cab on. At the moment it's just Blue Tacked itself, holding itself to the headache rack. But you can see the exhaust coming through the frame. Not a lot of room there. It's all pretty tight. And then you can see the overhang at the front over the cab. So we've got all that alignment. I've now marked with a bit of Sharpie where I want these to be on the back here. And what I'm going to do is work out a way to either probably drill and pin into here, into this area where there's some actual bulk under this tank, and put a pin on the bottom of this so that when you take that out, we take it out and put it in, we can realign it so that once we've got it painted, we can put that back on. But as you can see, this is where you've got to put your air lines. You've got to fit it somehow in all of these gaps. Right, so highlighting a little bit more of our alignment issues. If we have the air tanks facing backwards, the outlets here facing that way, the problem we have is that you have to either go over or under the chassis rail. And in reality, I don't think that would happen. I don't think they would put air lines under or over the chassis rail because they'd get damaged. So if we have the tank moved, and the tank also has to align with this end of the headache rack here, because there's a mud flap that comes down here. So this tank has to be inside that. So if you bring the air tank nozzles forward, you then got not a lot of space in here to get the air lines in. And if you look from the top, you can see there ain't much of a gap to get them through there. So I think Night Shift was right. You need to take this plate off to give yourself some clearance to get the air lines through there. So I think in the next video we'll be doing that, because I've got to order some plate for this bit, the cab floor, you know, outside of the cab floor, but where you step onto it there, and also this plate here.